Hi, I'm George Nordhaus, and Monday morning today is somewhat different. In fact, it's very different. It's on workers' compensation. It's something we've never done, and it's something that needs to be done, particularly with some of the changes that are coming in 2014. And so I asked Kevin Ring to be on this with me. Kevin's the Workers' Compensation Analyst for the Institute of WorkComp Professionals. That's an agents group. Many of you probably listening to this are probably already in that group anyway. But Kevin has quite a background in this, and he's very articulate about it. But when he sent me this, I was just knocked out with some of the things that are happening. So Kevin, what's going on in workers' compensation?
Hey George, it's great to talk to you, and thanks for having me. And yeah, what we're going to do is just take a little bit of an overview of what's happening as we go into 2014, and how it's going to affect your clients. And so what we're going to start with is something that many of you are probably seeing, which are rates are increasing. Now, this is not a universal situation. Every state is different. Missouri's having an 11% rate increase. In California, some companies have filed up to 25% rate increases. Now, in some states, rates are going down. But what is almost universally true is that insurance companies are being substantially more selective about who they write in the voluntary market, and they're also being far more aggressive in getting more rates. So we're seeing credits that would have been there in the last few years going away, where companies are saying we need a certain amount of premium if we're gonna write this risk, and that's making it incredibly important for companies to control their workers' comp, because they are having to make themselves attractive to the insurance company, and we are going to talk about how to make a company more attractive and how you as an agent can help with that. And now, one metric that we use to look at how insurance companies are behaving here is to look at how the residual market is growing. And this statistic is from NCCI, and you can see that there is substantial growth in all premium sectors, the way that NCCI has broken the premiums down. And the residual market is growing, and this growth is continuing now.
Is this a good thing?
Making sure. I'm sorry?
No, I was just going to say, is this a good thing for agents? Do they like it? The more selective and the rate increases and all that? How's the average agency feel?
My experience suggests that when the market hardens, as it is now, agents have a tremendous amount of anxiety because they're afraid they don't have a market to put their clients in. And then when the market goes softer, as it has been over the last several years, agents have a tremendous amount of anxiety that companies aren't charging enough premium and their commissions are down. So I think that this is really a much more serious challenge for agents, because when you have an account that wants to do business with you, and you can't find a voluntary market to place them in, that can be a substantial challenge for you and for them. Those surcharges can be substantial for being in the assigned risk market, and it's really not good for anybody, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Now, when we start to look at what's happening with NCCI, we're looking at the change in the split point, the point at which losses, employee injuries, are split between what's called primary loss and excess loss. And we're not going to do an experience mod class here today, but the key point is that the primary loss counts 100% in the experience modification calculation. Everything over that primary loss split point gets substantially discounted depending on the size of the risk. And this split point had been set at $5,000 and had stayed at $5,000 since 1991. And back in the spring of 2011, NCCI announced that there was going to be a change. And what they said was, if we could change this, we would change it to $15,000. That's where we think it should be. But they understood that that would create a substantial disruption in the marketplace. And so what we're seeing is a 3-year step up. And in 2013, all the NCCI states, with the exception of Missouri, which is doing this over 4 years, they went to a $10,000 split point. In 2014, the states are going to go to a $13,500 split point. And in 2015, it's going to be somewhere north of $15,000. They have not announced yet what the 2015 split point is. The latest that I've heard is somewhere around $17,000.
Wow.
And then what's going to happen is that each year, NCCI is going to adjust the split point based on the average cost of an employee injury across all the states where it keeps statistics. And what this means, I think most insurance agents who write workers' comp have heard the cliche that frequency is more important than severity. And what's happening here in very simple terms is that what was a frequency claim before was a claim under $5,000. And now that number is getting much, much larger.
Okay.
The one point of confusion for employers and for agents that operate in multiple states is that states aren't applying this change on the same date universally. It wasn't January 1st and this happened across the board. It happened with each state's regularly scheduled rate filing. So in Florida, the split point changes on January 1st. In North Carolina, it changes on April 1st. In West Virginia, it doesn't change until November 1st. And what you'll see, if you have a risk with multiple state exposures, is you could have different split points on the same mod for different states. So you're going to want to keep an eye out for that. And the question that comes up most often in my conversations with agents is, why did NCCI need to make this change? And here on the slide is a graph from NCCI that shows the average cost of an employee injury over time. And what we see is that back in 1991, when this split point changed to $5,000, the average cost of an employee injury was right around $3,000. And as they projected the ultimate cost of the 2011 policy years, we're creeping up on $9,000, and there's no reason to believe that that curve is going to flatten out. And so what's happened is that the experience mod can't keep up. And when I'm talking to an agent about this, this graph is a great tool because you can look at it and say, if the correct place for the split point to be when the average cost of an employee injury was $3,000, then the split point can't be correctly set at $5,000 when the average cost of an employee injury is $9,000. One of those things isn't right. And what's happening is that the experience mod was not going up or down as quickly as it should, which brings up really the core purpose of the experience mod, which is to adjust an employer's cost for workers' compensation up or down based on whether or not they are better or worse than the average employer like them. And so when that formula isn't performing as well as it could, then something needs to change. And NCCI has chosen to go this route. And the change is premium neutral. And NCCI made a very big deal out of this because many people were very concerned about the impact this was going to have on businesses. And it can have a substantial impact on any individual business because of their particular situation. But overall, about 78% of employers are going to see a plus or minus 5-point swing in their experience mod just as a result of this change. 8% are going to go down 5 to 10 points, and you've got 7% plus 5 to 10, and the folks who really have it bad, which are the 7% that are going up 11 points or more. It's important to note that in our experience looking at experience mods here at the Institute, it is pretty much universally true that an employer who is seeing an 11-plus point increase in their experience mod just as a result of this change is an employer that already has a much worse than average history of employee injuries.
Let me ask a question, Kevin. Why is why was that changed? Why is it changing so I mean, I obviously see it changing and going up, and obviously they have to change the rate. But is it higher costs of medical costs? Is that the major reason, or the
cost of employee injuries has been steadily marching up, and certainly higher medical costs are part of that. Although workers' compensation medical costs have not, over time, been increasing any faster than medical inflation in general. Mm-hmm. And of course, when people are out of work, they are getting paid more because we're getting paid more. The average weekly wage in states goes up. There have been obviously many legislative changes in states over the years that have increased workers' compensation benefits. So there's a variety of things that are causing that increase. Mm-hmm. I think that the key thing for agents and employers is to understand how they can utilize the rules of workers' comp to make sure that their employers' workers' compensation costs are as low as possible. Because if you take a certain structured set of steps, then you can, in large part, dodge the other problems that are out there in the system.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Great. So now we've talked about rate increases and insurance companies becoming less friendly in terms of underwriting, and these big changes, once in a generation changes in the experience mod. So it's important now to look at what can we do to turn all of these things in our favor, to manage the experience mod more effectively, to make employers more attractive to insurance companies so that the insurance company is willing to write the policy and help the employer out. And it starts with having employers hire the right people for the job. And the challenge that many HR departments have is that they are very comfortable with placing an ad and interviewing folks, and they're comfortable with the questions they can and can't ask during an interview, but then they make a decision on who to hire, and they say, congratulations, you've got the job, you start on Monday, possibly pending the results of a drug test. What most HR folks miss, and what insurance agents can help them with, is implementing a hiring process that ensures that they don't hire someone who is unfit for the job. And this starts with having the employee complete a conditional offer of employment form. And it's important to note that this only happens once you've decided to hire someone. You can't do this with all potential applicants. But you complete a form with them that says, we are conditionally offering you this job subject to medical opinion that you are mentally and physically able to complete substantially all of the duties of the position. And so we get them to say, yes, I think I can do this, and then we send them to a doctor who is going to examine them and complete a medical history questionnaire with that employee. Now, what that's going to allow the doctor to do is to let the employer know, not the particulars of their medical history, but what restrictions this employee may have because of their medical history. So maybe they've had back surgery and they shouldn't lift more than 20 pounds. And the doctor can alert the employer this person has a 20-pound lifting restriction, and the employer can make a decision whether or not they can reasonably accommodate that restriction. And what this allows is it keeps employers from putting someone on the job where it's not a question of if, it's a question of when they're going to get injured. And I'm going to give you a website at the when we wrap up today where you can download that conditional offer of employment and medical history questionnaire form.
Good.
The next step is building a relationship with a physician. So hopefully someone with a little bit better bedside manner than Dr. House.
He did look familiar.
Yes.
God.
In states where it's permitted, and this is most states, at least at the beginning of the process in employee injury, you want to tell your employees where they're going to go to the doctor when they get injured. And as agents, we need to build relationships with occupational doctors in our communities that we can then drive our clients to. These occupational doctors have facilities that are ready to treat people who have been injured at work. When you build a relationship with an occupational doctor, you can have a partnership with them where maybe they're doing the pre-employment testing, and you can pass those services along to them as well. And the really good ones will come to your place of business and see what work is happening, so they can really get an understanding of what's going on. And many clinics have marketing departments that are extremely good partners when it comes to doing seminars and really co-prospecting, because you both want to work with very similar businesses. Now, once someone's on the job and they've gotten injured, the physician can communicate with the employer about what's going on with this injured employee, which leads directly into the next point, which is having employees recover at work. We know that employers that have a return-to-work program return employees back to full duty faster. In fact, the RAND Corporation published a study that said that employers with a written return-to-work program returned injured employees back to their full duty job 46% faster than employers that did not have a written return-to-work program.
Well, that's amazing.
And
that's high.
Doctors, I'm sorry?
That's very high. I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It seems so simple.
It does, and employers can sometimes have a real hard time. They'll say, well, we don't have any light duty. We don't have anything for someone to do if they can't do their full job. And when you explain to them the costs of having an employee out of work, and in about 30 states now, if you prevent an injured worker from getting any lost wage payments from the insurance company, then you get a 70% discount for that employee injury on your experience mod. Agents can show business owners how much they're paying for their employee injuries, and you can start to create a real case that bringing them back to work, even if it seems inconvenient at first, is a better business decision than letting them sit home, watch television, and those television shows have attorney ads. Every single commercial break, there's an attorney telling them that they care and they'll get them what they're owed. And once that attorney gets involved, then the game is over. You've totally lost control.
Mm-hmm.
And the last step, and we talk about conquering zero, getting to zero employee injuries, and not believing that it is true that, oh, accidents will happen. We can start with having a workplace where doing the job safely is not optional, where you don't have to have a supervisor on the job site or in the shop to make sure that everyone's doing the right thing, that peers are calling each other out and making sure that things are being done correctly, that management has a consistent focus on doing the job safely above everything else. And when you have a safe workplace and you hire the right people and you have a relationship with a physician who is going to send employees back to work on transitional duty until they can go back to their full-duty job, you create a workplace that is virtually certain to be substantially better than average, and a company that is very attractive to insurance companies, that will be very close to their minimum experience mod year after year after year. And regardless of how rates change, how the states decide to change their rates, or the insurance companies change their credits and debits and loss cost multipliers and all these other things that agents worry about, if you take these steps as an employer and as an agent helping employers, you can make sure that you are paying the absolute legal minimum for your workers' comp year after year after year, no matter what the environment.
Well, that's beautiful. I've learned more about workers' comp in the last 20 minutes than I thought I'd ever know. And I know that, Kevin, we could talk for a long time about it, but they can contact you at the Institute of WorkComp Professionals. Let's take a look at that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. And you've got quite a number of agencies involved, haven't you, across the country?
We do. We have agents in every non-monopolistic state except for Hawaii, and we're looking for a referral to an agency there in Hawaii. If anyone knows someone who might like to learn more about workers' comp, we'd like to travel down there and teach them. You can find out more about what we do at workcompprofessionals.com, but I mentioned the conditional offer of employment
right.
and the medical history questionnaire. You can download samples of those forms at iwcpro.com/MM.
Well, I'll put that,
Scott,
I'll put that on, Scott, Kevin, I'll put that on the on the email today. So that they'll have that right on the email. They can just go right there and click on it, right back to it. And listen, I do think
if agents have any questions about any of the stuff I've talked about, you can give me a call. I didn't put my email address on the slide, but it's kevin@workcompprofessionals.com. Drop me a note, and I would be happy to chat with you.
Well, thank you again. And folks, don't forget to go back to get that, if you'd like, to the email. And while you're back there, go to the Insurance Community Center's quiz flash of the week. Those are always fun. And the agentsofamerica.org has its errors and omissions tip of the week. And, of course, you can see archives there, 2 places to go to it. So please feel free to do that, and we would be more than happy to see you again next Monday. Kevin, once again, my thanks to you.
My pleasure, sir. Thanks so much.